Jordan with City Timepieces here. Got Jon Calvert. Pleasure to have you here in the office.
Absolutely.
Brought some sick pieces here to share with us. But let's just get started with what you're wearing today.
Today I'm actually wearing a 16622, just Yachtmaster from early 2000s. Kind of a easy daily wear.
Yeah.
Throw it on, and that way we could leave some sitting on the tray.
Yeah.
And then, what are you wearing? Because
funny story, this is actually a piece that I picked up from Jon. This is a Saudi royal family, 16203, date just. Pretty cool piece.
Yeah. With the blue dial, no less.
With the blue dial. We've seen a few of them with the white. Blue, not so much. Don't see as many of them out there.
No.
So pretty special piece.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads us into another piece that we also picked up from you as well. One that my father actually personally owns.
Yeah.
And that's this one right here. Another 16203 that we actually picked up from you. That's a pretty special piece if you want to talk a little bit about it.
Yeah. So this is another rarer, I would say, stamp dial. It's the Nick Price.
One you definitely don't see that often.
Not ever. And for this one to have complete set, full stickers.
Yeah, NOS. I know my dad was really tickled about that one.
Well, I mean, like, golf and Rolex go together anyway, so to have a stamp on the dial that pays tribute to golf tournament, professional golfer, unworn, and your dad and you both enjoying golf, it was a kind of a match made in heaven.
It was the perfect piece for him whenever he said he was looking for it.
Yeah. Super stoked to do that with you.
Yeah, and it was an honor to be able to pry that one away from you.
Yeah.
Sticking with stamp dials, you've also brought another really cool stamp dial Rolex that it's pretty cool.
Sure.
If you want to talk about it.
So this is a 16030. It's a Tiffany stamp dial from 1988. It's a R series. So I know.
My birth year.
I know.
Jon always getting
calm down
with my birth year pieces.
Jordan might be buying another date just from me. But yeah, so this one, again, Tiffany's, we see them pop up. I'm always pretty bullish on Tiffany stamp dials in general. To have the dark gray, like slate dial, it's not really a color you find that often.
Yeah.
We see a lot of white, we see a lot of silver, we see a lot of like two-tone with champagne dials. And so with that one, having a perfect dial through in a factory Tropic 29 crystal, which I
think is incredibly rare.
Yeah, and so it gets rid of the Cyclops, but it kind of just showcases the dial and it's to the point, and that's a super fun one to.
And something like this, I feel like stainless. Like if somebody wanted to get into stamp dials, I feel like this is a really good option for that. What could somebody pick one of these up for, roughly, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm asking $12,000 for it. It's obviously a premium for a 16030, but in the realm of Tiffany stamp dials, I don't think.
Yeah, I feel like that's a price that you don't usually see a lot.
Yeah.
Whenever you hear Tiffany and Rolex.
Right.
A lot of people think 20,000 plus.
Yeah.
But this is a really good option, I feel like, for somebody who wants to kind of get into that Tiffany stamp Rolex and pick something up that's really cool for a really good price.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's a good kosher model. Another fun fact that people I don't think understand about or know about Tiffany models is, so Tiffany bought these watches from Rolex, and then they stamped a dial and they retailed them through their stores. So Rolex serializes watches, obviously, but Tiffany also serializes the watch with an etching on the back of the top right lug, and it's very thin. It's very, it's not deep, and to have an example that the case is still etched with a Tiffany control number
that's really cool.
Yeah, just helps tell the story a little bit better. And yeah.
Cool. And you got another one here on the table that's a sports model that, with really the only sports model we've really got here on the table.
Sure.
For the most part.
I didn't realize that. Yeah.
But a watch that I always really like to see, and that's a 666 Sea Dweller.
Yeah.
This one appears that it's got a gorgeous patina.
Sure.
I feel like this is a really good option for somebody who wants something that looks like a sub, but at the end of the day, it's not a sub.
That's it.
You know.
Well, and I mean, in the same price realm as a modern Sea Dweller, if somebody's looking to get into vintage, they want an unpolished case, like you said. That one's got great patina, great dial, matching hands, matching pearl. I'm always hunting models like this where it's just, there's no story attached. It's a good kosher from production. It's aged well. It's been kept in good condition. And yeah, 666s they're hard to keep on hand, but anytime I have them, they're fun to show off. And I mean, same with.
And one thing I've always loved about the Sea Dweller too is, they all have the solid end links.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they really like the older subs and everything, but they want the solid end link. They don't want that rattle of the. And I always think this is a great option because being a 40 millimeter, it's not like the Sea Dweller of today where you're walking around with a brick on the side of your wrist.
That's it.
And plus you get that extra depth rating.
And yeah, I mean, like you said, it's
just a really cool, quirky piece.
A case ahead of its time as far as, I mean, that bracelet feels like a modern watch. The whole watch, minus the patina and the aluminum insert, it's a bit chunky. It's got some good weight, and then, like you said, solid bracelet, solid end links.
Yeah, it feels substantial.
Yeah, yeah.
For what year did you say this one was?
It's a 1986.
An 86. So yeah, you're getting, a lot of those mid 80s, early 90s pieces. They don't really feel very substantial on the wrist, but this definitely has a more modern feel to it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I've always really liked the Sea Dwellers.
I mean, it's right there with the SD4 case with the 40 millimeter ceramics. I would say if you blindfold somebody and put one or the other on their wrist there, they wouldn't be able to tell you which one's the old watch and which one's the new one. For sure. So.
Really cool piece. Glad you was able to bring that.
Yeah. So, we're gonna go to the first row now.
Do we want to go to the first row? I see some pretty heavy pieces. I'll let you bring your next in.
Sure.
What you like?
Well, we'll keep it. We've talked about a bunch of date justs, so we'll keep talking about date justs. It's the last one. This isn't so vintage. It's discontinued. It's 20 years old now.
Yeah.
But and you guys just had one.
Yeah. So we just had one with a fluted.
Yeah. So this is a 116208 date just, solid gold, obviously on like solid gold Super Jubilee, which is, I don't want to throw around the word rare, but you don't
see them that often.
Yeah, they don't pop up often, and they seem like they don't stay public often either.
They definitely do not. I don't even think ours made it to the website before it was gone.
Yeah, Anthony sent it to me. He said, "Have you ever seen one of these?" And I was like, "I need that watch," and he was like, "It's sold." Yeah. So, but this one has a factory onyx dial, which is, again, I don't want to throw around rare, but not often seen. You'd be hard pressed to find another one.
Especially in a 6-digit reference.
Yeah, and made for the 6-digit reference. Yeah. They, you see dial swaps with stone dials quite a bit, but to have a Swiss-made onyx, the 6.9 dial, the more modern onyx dial in a 6-digit reference right before they stopped making onyx.
Yeah.
Which of course they brought them back now, but before they stopped making them, it's a cool watch. And I mean, when you have a gold date just with a bracelet that just, I don't know if we can see that on camera, but
just absolutely perfect.
Yeah, just perfect, fully linked, and I don't know, that's a fun one.
And another thing about this one that you don't see very often is the smooth bezel.
Yeah.
I think that's another, me and you both, we both prefer smooth bezels on some models, and this is definitely one of them that stands out, because I feel like on the 6-digit reference, you don't see the smooth bezel very often at all. No. On the date just or any gold models for that matter. It
kind of goes back to the 2 date justs I sold you, and then even into the Tiffany with me swapping the crystal for a non-acrylic crystal. It's when you have a special dial, I don't think you need the fluted bezel to. Yeah, it gets busy. It gets busy, and so I think the smooth bezel just highlights the stamp on your dial, the stamp on your dad's. I think and then onyx. I don't think you need any added decoration. That's it.
Super cool piece.
Yeah.
And one you definitely don't see very often. And now, I think one of my personal favorites on the table. Let's talk about this 3700.
3800.
3800, I believe. So we was talking about this earlier. 37 millimeter Patek Philippe. Very cool piece. And, you know, a lot of people associate Patek with high numbers.
Sure.
A watch like this, somebody that wants to get into the Patek, can you beat this watch?
For a Min or for an automatic Nautilus, I mean, a two-tone 3800 is it is as cheap as you can get, I think. And, you know, and people see sizes online that kind of, I think, deter them.
Yeah.
Because this isn't a watch that you can walk in most stores and try on or
for sure
experience. But this was the Min's full-size model. They made a jumbo.
For how many years? I mean, a lot of people now, we associate, you know, mid-30s, 34, 36, 37, 38, you know, women's sizes now. But for years until not that long ago, that was the most common men's size.
Yeah.
Unless you got into a dive watch or something like that.
Well, and they made that watch for 30 years, from the early 80s until into the 2000s. So, you know, and they made it in gold and steel, two-tone obviously, and then all kinds of other, or a couple other precious metals, white gold, pink gold. But yeah, I think it's more substantial on the wrist than people realize.
Yeah, people definitely don't realize.
But you have other, you know, you have AP and Rolex and brands blowing up models now, and you know, guys feel like I've got to have that 42 millimeter, and it's, I don't know.
Yeah, personally, you know, I have smaller wrists. I know John, me and you wear almost the exact same size watch.
Sure.
And personally, this size, I mean, I don't think you can really go wrong with it.
I don't think it leaves you wanting anything else.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
And, you know, somebody who, I feel like when you talk about Patek, you associate it with really big numbers, and to be able to get into a watch, if you want to speak on the price of this one, you know, I think it's just an awesome piece that somebody can add to their collection that, you know, maybe has everything. They're bored with Rolex.
Right.
You know, they want to branch out, but they don't want to spend, you know, $100,000 for a modern Nautilus or, you know, Royal Oak or something like that.
No, getting into that price realm, I mean, it's you pick these up in the low 30 range. You know, a year ago they were low 40s range. I've sold them from all the way from 45,000 to 32,000 in the past, and it's you know, it's for the same price as a Panda Daytona, and which I love Panda Daytonas. I'm not speaking on that, but you know, you can go with modern Rolex, or you can go with a Patek Nautilus that people usually, you know, they associate with a six-figure price tag.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is it's an amazing watch for the money, and that's something that I feel like a lot of people who are maybe just getting into the hobby, you know, they hear these hype brands and things like that, and they don't actually know that this stuff exists. Yeah. And that you can get into a Patek, something that's, you know, a really, really unique, special piece for, you know, not a lot of money when you consider what things are going for these days. And I mean, as far as bang for your buck, I mean, that's it. Yeah, for sure.
Well, and that's why we deal with these models. You know, when you're talking, like we mentioned, there's a lot of modern steel Rolex that are pushing that $30,000 price point. And then people almost, I feel like, stray away from Patek, from AP, because
the price almost scares them away a little bit, you know, because that, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, people buying their first pieces and you know, what that range is for their first piece. And, you know, it's a big purchase to a lot of people. But when you think about what you can get for the money with a brand like Patek, I mean, it's so much, I mean, there's so much watchmaking history and so much that you get with a piece like this. Yeah. I just think it's hard to go wrong.
And it's still instantly, you know, a Nautilus is a Nautilus from the inception of it to today's Nautilus. So Watch guys will know you're wearing an Audemars. You know, people
Yeah.
will recognize it, and then the people who don't know watches will.
And also, it's such an underrated piece.
Sure.
It's not a piece that you're not going to see this walking through the airport.
No.
That's what we always say.
Yeah.
Is it an airport watch?
Yeah.
You know, is it a watch that if you walk through the airport, you're going to see 3 more of them? No. You can walk through 30 airports and probably not see another one. And that's one thing that I, for one, really think is special about these watches. Yeah, beautiful piece. I'm glad you brought this one with you.
And that's just to finalize on that. I've sold 20 or 30 3800s at this point, and it seems like the size is always the deterrent when you're talking with these guys online. But from the moment they take delivery of the watch and they put it on their wrist, it's same with the mid-size Royal Oaks from that same era. I didn't realize how big this actually wears, and it's because of the integrated bracelet, because of the way the case is made, because of the shape of them, I guess. Patek expects this the same size as the date just you're wearing, but on the wrist, it's gonna wear quite a bit larger, which is a good segue into the last watch, I guess.
Yes.
And
one of my favorite configurations. You know how much I love the APs and the...
Sure. This is a 14486. This is a 35 millimeter, AP calls it 35 millimeter Royal Oak, solid gold, gray dial. But going back to what I just talked about, a Rolex 40 millimeter, which is, I would say, the most popular size of watch guys, the Rolex Sport case.
For sure.
It's a universal size. And when you compare the two on the wrist, you're not going to be left wanting.
Especially not in gold as well.
No, and it's just crazy how closely that resembles a 40 millimeter sizing, but AP calls it 35.
Exactly.
And but yeah, this is a fun one.
Definitely
just out of AP
one.
service, comes under warranty, and again, right around that $30,000 price point.
Which is crazy when you think about a precious metal and AP for $30,000. I mean, in today's AP world, what's that get you?
15,300 maybe?
Yeah, in stainless?
Yeah, stainless.
And in my opinion, the character and having a precious metal of this far outweighs purchasing one in stainless. And that's something that I think that may be why I always lean toward two-tone, because I feel like you're getting just a little bit extra for your money. I feel like they just don't get the attention they deserve. When
two-tone sells for less than steel in most models, it makes
no sense.
I've been a huge proponent for just go two-tone. Just go two-tone.
And it's just like, I always reference the Zenith Daytonas.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The 16523s.
Yeah.
That is such a huge bang for your buck when you can purchase that watch for around $15,000, $16,000 now, and the same exact model, which is no different in steel.
25, 27.
Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing that people overlook those watches, and still they're absolutely beautiful watches.
No, absolutely.
But this truly, and the gray dial, I mean, screams AP.
It's hard to beat.
Can't beat it.
That tapestry dial, I mean, it's all of AP's DNA. It's all of, just that 80s era of fully brushed case, integrated bracelet. I think if there was like one watch, if I had to wear one watch for the rest of my life, it would probably be a 14790, 14486. I would definitely have to agree with you on that. Yeah.
And even with this watch being a 35, when you think about the Rolex day dates of this era, I feel even in precious metal, this watch just having the solid bracelet versus the hollow the hollow links of the day dates and things like that, this watch feels so substantial.
Yeah. Well, and only 525 of that model was ever produced too, and so
versus what date at millions.
Exactly. So going back to like the rarity of, the 1446, it was a model only made for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then in yellow gold, they only made 525 of them for a $30,000 price point. Again, for a gold Royal Oak that wears very similar to a 40 millimeter Rolex, it's just
And I mean, for this price range in modern Rolex, I mean, you could get maybe a Sky Dweller, maybe some steel Daytonas, things like that. And again, I come back to that precious metal.
Yeah.
I mean,
or the airport watch. How many Sky Dwellers are you going to see in an airport? How many Daytona? Again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's I've always been looking for niche and looking for pockets that I think are undervalued. And there's only 525 of those in the world, so your chances of finding those
are very, very slim.
That's it.
And I think we've got one more here that is, I dare say, the most special on the table.
Yeah, definitely in its own right. I love pieces like this personally, and they're definitely growing as of late, because even as we've talked about how much harder a 3800 is to find, or a mid-size Royal Oak is, throughout COVID, with the market exploding, collectors exploding the past 3 or 4 years, just the population of collectors in general, these are still more common, I guess, and people are realizing APs of this era, 1980s again. This is a perpetual calendar reference, 5557 BA. It's 123 pieces ever made. This is a bargain compared to, I guess, anything on the table, and it is special. I mean, it's a perpetual calendar. It's full set. It's got box, papers, original sales card, the card from the salesman that sold it, all the calendar cards so you can set your moon phase throughout the years, the original winding box. I don't know. I think it's cool. The bracelet's a bit funky for some people. But again,
but I really feel like these, I don't want to call AP designer.
Sure.
But I think when you think about the designer style of watches like Piguet and things like that, I really feel like those watches have really took off within the last few years.
Absolutely.
And I think this style of bracelet and this style of watch is really starting to make a huge comeback.
Yeah.
I mean, even look at the King Midas.
Yeah.
What those are going for now. It's just something that...
Well, and that all goes back to what's so fun about collecting vintage too, is back when the Art Deco phase of watches, and it felt like these manufacturing houses were taking risks and having fun with designs, where now it seems like everything's getting cut out of the same mold, more or less. A lot of models like this seems to have just fallen off. They flew under the radar for years and years, and now
people are finally starting to say, hey, look at what we missed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with celebrities like, you have Jay-Z, you have Rihanna, you have Ed Sheeran, John Mayer, of course, highlighting vintage watches and highlighting cool references and really going down these rabbit holes. This is the kind of watch I feel like I sell once, and then it never comes back up for sale again, because whoever buys it lives with it for, until they're gone.
And what can you say about it? I mean, it's just, it almost leaves you speechless. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And when you think about a perpetual moon phase from AP, the price that in modern commands, I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands for sure these days. And to be able to pick up the same watch for a fraction of the price and the size, just a truly special piece.
No, absolutely. It's right around that $30,000 price point. You get complete set perpetual calendar.
Which is unheard of.
Yeah.
And again, a solid precious metal piece. I know me and you was talking about these in two-tone earlier, and I mean, John, for what you're asking for this piece, I mean, you can barely pick up a two-tone model for that.
Yeah.
And this, you're getting a full set at that. That,
sure.
You know, we're talking about the watch and we're showcasing it, but another thing that is incredibly special about this watch is this box. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Because that, I mean, this is something that
sure
normal people never get to see.
Yeah. So this is the original winding box from the 80s, which, being a perpetual calendar, you obviously at the time you didn't want it to die. You didn't want the power reserve to run out, because then you're not only setting the time, but you're setting the date, you're setting the moon phase, you're setting the month. You know, if you leave it stagnant for 6 months, you have a lot of buttons to press to then get it back to the perfect date. God forbid, you know, you leave it sitting for a couple years.
Yeah.
And so AP, when they sold you this watch, they would have sold it with this box. You put it in, you plug the box in, and it keeps your watch wound while you're not wearing it. That way it doesn't run out of its power reserve. So to have the boxes, yeah, I mean, that's...
The box is almost as rare as the watch.
Yeah. Find me another of that.
Find another one, right?
But then it also, you know, complete set with the user manual, with the warranty paper, with the card from the sales guy who originally sold it in Zurich back in '86. All these calendar, these moon phase cards, so you can set the correct moon phase if it dies, from 1986 all the way up through 1995. It's just, there's not more you could want from a set. And it's one of those watches that, again, I know it's not for everybody, and I'm not even trying to push this watch on anybody, but I know that when it sells over the next 6, 7, 8 months, I'll have more people inquire, hey, can you find me another? The answer is no. No. The answer is going to be no.
Sorry,
It's the first one I've ever had the opportunity to buy. I think there's one other for sale currently in the world, by a pretty good friend. And yeah, I mean, the answer is, like, if you missed it, no.
You missed it.
Yeah.
Yep.
We can put you on a wait list, but like, it could be another 6 years before.
Right.
And
right.
So.
Yeah, and that's the thing with these. And honestly, I think too, like you said, with more and more celebrities going to this designer style of timepiece, we're going to start to see a lot more people become interested in them, because I don't know about you, but I personally, you know, they always say things come back in style, and me, I really believe that the smaller watch is on its way back in.
Yeah.
We've seen the rise of the big jumbo cases and everything, and now I think we're going to start to slowly see that, you know, smaller watch come back in. And
with GQ, I think, just published the article. I think they took it as far as the next big thing in men's watches is women's watches.
Really?
And I believe it was GQ, and I'll fact check that. But there's a ton of dealers that we know, good buddies, that are doing a lot in this realm of uncovering cool niche old models, telling the stories that were never, you know, honestly told about.
Exactly.
A lot of these, because they were sold and they were worn and they were put away, and
a lot of these watches didn't survive during you know, like the quartz era and everything, just like the Midas, the King Midas. You know, a lot of those watches, they quit working, and people just melted them down for scrap. I mean, that's a watch that, how many, like 4,000 or something was made? Yeah. How many of those are left? And a watch that we're starting to see pick up in popularity once again, and they're harder than ever to find. Sure. You know, and I'm sure that some of these may have fell to that same demise. These are definitely special pieces that I don't think get enough recognition.
Oh, absolutely.
And
for years it was, you want to sell this AP? And then they pull out a scale and they're like, what does it weigh? Yeah. And
what does it weigh? How much gold is it worth? That's what I'll give you. And just, you know, to lose so many watches to that, it's a shame. But I'm glad that, you know, we're able to do what we do and bring a lot of these pieces that are really special back to market. And that's it, man. And as far as a special piece, this is definitely one of those pieces that
Yeah.
is possibly a once in a lifetime.
I sort of say there's a lot of watches I
in
sell
this set.
that, I love 666 dwellers. I'll have another one, in a month. Yeah, when we sell it, we'll start looking for more. Try to keep mid-size Royal Oaks. Try to keep a mid-size Nautilus. These, they come up, and we're constantly working on buying more. But it's so funny because of the 3 watches I think that are semi-unreplaceable, you and your dad own 2 of them, and then that is the 3rd one where it's obviously for sale, but at the same time, it'll be a sad day when
it goes.
Yeah,
and that's the thing I think with vintage, and we love these watches.
Sure.
We care about them. We're not just here to sell you a cool watch for a lot of money. These are watches that are just as special to us, and
yeah.
I know I wish I could keep them all sometime, but just to be able to hold this and sit down and talk about it and enjoy it.
Absolutely.
It's an absolute pleasure, John. And I'm super thankful you brought it by. So many cool pieces we've got here, guys. If you're looking for anything rare,
Sure.
Super cool, John's your man. Another local here to us. John, it's always a pleasure to have you in the
I
office.
appreciate you having me, dude. Thanks for doing this.
For sure. And guys, anything modern, vintage, we do it all. Hit us up. If you enjoyed the video, please let us know. We'd love to know if you like this kind of content, and we'll catch you in the next one.